What's up, everybody? My name's Jamie Pagliei. I am the Philly sports guy, and you are listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Zales.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Zales, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people just like you and me from all over who are doing amazing things to Awakened Nation.
Hey, everybody. I have a guy on the show today who has such contagious energy. And when you see him in the stands, you know who it is. It's Jamie Pagliei, the Philly sports guy. Welcome to Awakened Nation, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Brad. I look forward to doing this.
Got to give a big shout out to Sarah Crockett, who hooked us up, got us connected. Thank you so much, Sarah, a fellow Pennsylvanian. Uh, uh, let's dig in, man. How in the heck did this all get started? Were you a big sports fan as a kid?
Yes. So if we want to go all the way back to the very beginning, my mother and my grandmother worked at the Spectrum and Veterans Stadium.
Hmm.
And that meant that every game they would go, every home game they would go into work. So as a young child, I would be in front of the television watching these games thinking that I was going to see my mom on TV because, you're 2 years old. You don't know any better. She
Right.
worked as a waitress in the club in the Spectrum. So there was never going to be a chance that I was going to see her. But you don't know that. And so I learned how to become a fan at a very, very young age. I taught myself how to read and do math by reading all the newspapers and checking out the sports scores and the box scores and everything, knowing who scored the goals that day and how we won or lost and how far away we were from being in first place. And as I grew older, at 14 years old, my mother said I have to go get a job. I started to work with my father for about 2 minutes, and he was pushing wheelbarrows of concrete. And I says I want to go work with mom. So I then go went and started bussing tables at the Spectrum, and ultimately would not only would I be working, but then I would get to go watch the games because all I have to do is go down the hallway and make it to watch the game, like where the Zambonis would go in and out of. So it was one of those situations where it was like I always was there. And back then, we're talking in the 80s, just the world was different in terms of
Yeah.
sports. The players were so much more accessible. So
Yeah.
it made things a lot easier. Like I would talk to these players, I would be a part of what they had going on. And it was just something that I kind of grew up with. And, ultimately, as I got older, I started to do different things, but would always go to games. And probably about 25 plus years ago, I started going to Eagles away games and painting my face. And that's how the paint got started. And over 25 years, it's evolved to kind of what it is now. And uh, literally 6 years ago, I was recognized the first time I was actually shown on television. And production company, uh, King Creative down in Delaware, which is where I am today, said, yeah, we'd like to have you do a commercial for us for a charity called Mascots for a Cure. And I came in and they're like, your energy's amazing. You're like the Philly sports guy. You should see if that name's available. And it was. And ultimately, they says, we'll teach you how to do social media if you want to learn. I said, okay. I mean, I had my own business, but it was struggling because I was a chimney sweep and a stonemason, and it was just hard to find help that would want to do that type of work.
Right.
And so I started to learn how to do the social media aspect of what I do. And now it's become a real big thing here. It's people are excited to see me at the games and excited when they see me on television, and it's I've become a little bit of a icon here in Philadelphia.
Folks, if you don't know who the Philly sports guy is, let me show you a couple of his reels. Roll the tape.
What's up, everybody? It's game day, and it's brought to you by TickPick. The price you see is the price you pay, and we're at the Super Bowl! That's right, baby! Birds, Chiefs. Chiefs have won 2 in a row. Never has a team had the opportunity to win 3 in a row. But it ain't gonna happen today, baby! The Birds got some unfinished business from 2 years ago, and we finished the job today. No excuses, no denying it, no doubts at all. I hope all these Chief fans, including Taylor Swift, brought some tissues because her boyfriend's going to lose. Kermit's going to lose, and the Birds are taking Lombardi back to Philadelphia. Go Birds! Yeah! What's up, everybody? Day 4 of the Preston and Steve Camp Out for Hunger. It's already a great day. They're giving out stacks of cash, doing all the things that they're doing here. But we need your food donations. That's right. Lots of hungry people in Philadelphia, and Phil Abundance does an amazing job to make sure that they get met. That's right. I'm all about community, and that's what Preston and Steve is pushing here all the time. So you still have time to get down here today. If you can't do it today, they're going to be having trivia tonight. Come tonight to Victory Brew Hall. Bring a donation, bring some money. You can win a suite to go to the Flyers game, the entire suite. That's pretty sweet. So come on down here Thursday all day long. I'm going to be here. Let's go, Preston and Steve. Yeah! How do you miss both foul shots? They're trying to lose this game. Toronto fans, they're trying to lose this game. Let's go, Sixers. Yeah! What's up, everybody? It's game day, and I missed it yesterday. We took care of stage 1, win the division. Now we got one more. Then regular season, we get the number 1 seed. And you know, we got a long red October coming, baby. That's going to end with a parade down Broad Street. Let's go, Phillies! Yeah! What's up, everybody? It's game day, and it's brought to you by TickPick. No hidden fees. PSG 25. Get you $25 off. It was Dallas week. I got my man, True Blue here. What's up? Ready to start crying because the Cowboys are going down. No Dak, no wins. That's right. They've been winning a lot, but it don't matter. We still want to beat them up. Let's go, Birds! Yeah!
Man, you have this energy. How hard is it to keep your energy up through the entire game? I mean, how hard is that?
Not very hard. So the one thing that I would say that is not different is just because I have face paint on doesn't make me any different of a fan than I normally am. I wouldn't be allowed to watch games in my house because I would scare my kids. Like it would go from it would be quiet, and then all of a sudden the Flyers would score a goal, and I'd be like, yeah, and they would jump out of their skin,
and the dog runs out of the room.
Yeah, things like that, and it's and so ultimately, and it was like I would go watch Eagles games, and I'd be at the bar, and I would have my own television, and I'd be sitting here like this watching the game, and I would yell at the television different things that I would see. Well, at the bar, people would not only just come watch the game, but they would come watch me watch the game, and would start taking the things that I were saying and yelling at the television and start to call into the sports talk shows and use like verbatim things that I were saying in that show. And it wouldn't be something that you could talk about right away. It would be like next level conversations.
Right.
So it became a kind of thing where it was just like, you have a group of people watching me watch the game, and I'm by myself. They wouldn't have anybody stand next to me because I was that guy yelling at the television all the time.
That guy. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are listening only and not watching on YouTube or Rumble, Jamie has this amazing mohawk. And now it's a permanent fixture, I'm assuming, because when he puts his makeup on, it is a part of that war paint makeup that he puts on. The mohawk stands out as well. By the way, we need to give a plug to your barber if that's if you have a special gel, anything that you use for that.
So the gel that I use is called Gorilla Snot.
Yeah.
so, and most of the time I cut my hair myself.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
pretty
shave
easy.
my head, and like if I have to, like during the summertime when I'm switching from Phillies colors, I'll have to bleach it. So normally I have really dark hair, but I'll bleach it blonde so that the red and the blue show up better. Because
Right.
green will show up really well on the black, and the orange will show up really well on black, but not red or blue.
That's amazing. Uh, how'd you like that Super Bowl, baby? That was great.
It was awesome. It just as awesome as it looked on television was just as great as it being there.
I kept thinking to myself, did the Chiefs show up for that game? Because they didn't score for like how long? Um, I made $500 last year on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and this year it was just way too close. I mean, the odds out here in Vegas were like, I mean, it was pretty equal. But I was surprised at the Chiefs' performance because, I mean, with the score like 40-22, that was clearly the Eagles dominated, which they did. You could see it was just incredible game, incredible game.
Yeah, the fact that they only let up 23 yards of offense in the first half, and that score really was 40-6. I mean, you could tell that the fourth
Yeah,
quarter they just let up off the gas some. They just were not. It wasn't as they were just like they started to celebrate. So
I
that's
love
we owed them that. We owed them that. So
it. Yeah. I grew up during the era when the Flyers, the 76ers, the Phillies, the Eagles, they were all going for the championships. And it was just one of those eras where it was literally magic. You know what I mean? It was just magic. Do you see that coming around anytime soon? Because now with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, are the other teams going to step up a little bit and just get that Philly excitement that we used to have?
hey, I wish it could go back to 1980. I mean, that was one of the years that kind of helped broaden my horizon on becoming a fan because, it was like we went to four championships in a row. We only won one of them, but we were at the Super Bowl. We were in the World
Yeah.
Series. We were in the NBA championship. We were in the Stanley Cup. Right now, I feel that winning begets winning. So I'm hoping that the Phillies would be able to take heed and maybe be able to get over the hump that they weren't able to get over with in previous years. The Sixers and the Flyers right now. The Flyers at least have a plan. The Sixers, I'm really frustrated with at the moment in terms of how they are just dealing with the way that they're dealing with things as an organization. I'm not very excited about. So I don't know that those two teams are going to be anywhere close anytime soon. Uh, but obviously, the Phillies are right here knocking on the door, and the Eagles. I don't see any reason why they couldn't go back and repeat.
Yeah. I think that a great franchise when they get hit like this and they get that win, they got a 5-year window to just keep that momentum going, to keep it going. Do you agree with that one?
Yes, I feel that. I mean, obviously, injuries play a big part, and somebody getting hurt, the right person getting hurt, could cause everybody to be down on themselves. That being said, I've like right now the Eagles are a very young team,
Yeah.
and the fact that they won the championship with the youngest defense in the NFL, and they were all the number one defense. I feel that they could really have the opportunity to not only repeat but possibly get that three-peat. The Phillies, I feel like the Phillies have always been a player away. Excuse me. Even in 22, when they were there, and they wound up getting uh, hot at the very right time. It was like, yeah, do we need that one extra person who can do this little bit more that would be able to get us over the hump? I kind of feel the same way with this team right now, that this is a great team, but they need that one extra person to help get us over the hump.
Right. Now, right now, I'm in Vegas. And the Golden Knights came out of nowhere. I mean, when they won that first Stanley Cup, it was like, whoa, reinventing the speed at which hockey is played. Our goalies they're hot stuff, man. What do you think about the Flyers? Are they going to be a contender this year, or are they just, I haven't been watching all the teams lately, but what do you think?
I've been saying to people that the Flyers are 2 years away from being a year away. And I feel that they just don't have, they have a lot of youth. They have a lot to learn as a team in general. The defense just kind of doesn't do their job 100%. They give away the puck a little too easily in their
Uh,
defensive zone. Uh, when you look at the Golden Knights and you see how they came about, it was when they did the expansion, the NHL wasn't
yeah,
ready for it.
yeah,
And the Golden Knights took advantage of that. When Seattle came in, they were a little bit more prepared because they saw what just happened with the Golden Knights. So
yeah,
Vegas was very uh, eye opening to the
yeah.
rest of the NHL. And they put together an amazing team, like an all-star team right away. It was like, okay, we're going to get a A level players that nobody wants anymore, and B level players that nobody thought to protect. And they really did a great job building the team. And I'm surprised it took them 3 years to win the cup.
You know what's funny? I've been to hockey games my whole life, and when I went to my first Knights game, I couldn't believe the speed at which they were playing. Four men in, four men out, boom, hitting goal off the ice, on the ice. I was like, "What the hell just happened?" And I felt it forced the rest of the NHL to change the way they obviously played. They had to, and then you see franchises like the Avalanche, the Capitals, the Wild. They're all like invested in speeding up the game, and that's why they become such rivals here in Vegas. It's really incredibly exciting, and I definitely hope the Flyers are in on that because I always will have a love for Pennsylvania teams. Always, I grew up there. I grew up right down the road in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. Um, I want to go back to a little bit of the nostalgia. I remember when my dad would drive me to Vet Stadium, and we would go and watch the Phillies play. And that sticks out in my mind so much. So when you're talking about your mom working at the Spectrum and you getting to work there, it really touches my heart. But my dad was hilarious, and I want to talk about your father. My dad was all an immigrant, from Hungary, first generation born here. So we would buy a Coca-Cola in the stands or whatever, but he wouldn't let me buy the pretzels in the stand. He said, "Wait till we're driving home." He says he would get them on the street. He goes, "They're better quality."
Yep.
Do you remember that? Did you ever
Yeah,
go
where
to the
they would
game?
have them under their arms. They
Yes,
would hold them
yes,
under their arms, and they'd sell them right at
right.
the.
And then they would have did you get the lemon drop drinks or whatever? They would actually have a stall made of lemon candy in lemonade. You could get those as well on the
Yep,
street.
yep.
But yeah, did you ever go to the games with your dad at all?
I was never really with my father. It was with my mother or she would allow me to. So my father worked in construction, and he
Oh,
was all
yeah,
like he was a union concrete finisher, so he was
yeah.
working all the time. So my mother would, on occasion, like one of the stories. So she worked. It was a union job as a waitress. So you worked in the Spectrum, and then you would also work at the vet. And
Hmm.
at a young age, I was like one of the funniest stories that I always tell is that when I was like 6, 7 years old, uh, my mother had to bring me into work because my father didn't get done in time, and she didn't want to leave me at home by myself. So
Right.
she brings me into work, and one of the bartenders got done setting up early, and he's like, "I'm going to take him down to the dugout." Now, mind you, this is 1979, 1980.
Yeah.
So to think about how a bartender who happens just to be working at what was called the Grand Slam room at the time is going to go down and be able to get into the dugout is unheard of nowadays.
Today, especially, yeah.
No chance is that going to ever occur. But here it is. I'm holding the hand of a guy who I don't barely know, and I'm like 7 years old, and I'm meeting like Mike Schmidt and Pete Rose and Larry Boa and I'm standing there and I'm in the dugout and I'm meeting all these guys and here comes Greg Lazinski and this guy looks as like a monster to me, standing in front of me and I remember the bartenders tell me, and this is the bull Greg Lazinski. And I'm looking up at him and he looks down at me and he goes, I eat kids for breakfast. Puts his hand on my face, pushes me out of the way, and just kind of walks past. And it's like I'm sitting there and I'm like shaking because I feel like he's about to eat me.
Right.
But it's just like it's such a funny story. You know, uh, go now 40 years later, I tell him this story. He's at Citizens Bank Park. He's got Bull's Barbecue. I tell him this story, and his response to the story doesn't crack a smile or nothing. He's just, you must have been small.
That is hilarious. And this is the difference between regular guys and professional athletes. I used to work at Hershey Park. And when I was like 16, 17, Muhammad Ali came to the park with his daughters. And we're talking late 70s, early 80s. And I'm looking up at him, going, ha, ha, hi, champ. It's like, it's a little intimidating. Even if you are somebody who's not intimidated by that, it was like, you got to be kidding me. Who was your favorite team player to meet? Was there anybody in that roster that you really loved?
The one person that I was uh, probably I never got very fangirlish, is the best way I can explain that. I never really
Right.
got excited for any player because I was so used to being with them all the time. However, I remember at 15 years old shaking Wilt Chamberlain's hand.
Oh, wow.
And it was like I knew he was going to be coming through and what have you, and I kept waiting. I'm like, is that him? Is that him? Is that him? And then he walked in the room, and I tell you, it's amazing. Like I can imagine Shaquille O'Neal has a very similar presence in certain circumstances. That when he walks into a room, it's just immediate. You could tell, like his aura comes in ahead of him and he's just that guy. And I went up and I shook his hand, and I've got some pretty big hands. His hand encompassed half my arm. And it was like, I'm just like, Mr. Chamberlain, I just want to shake your hand. I don't want an autograph or anything. And he shook my hand, and literally his fingers went like halfway up my arm. And that was probably one of the most exciting moments of like who I met that really was just over the top.
I can just imagine because I think there's a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Wilt Chamberlain. Was that in Conan the Barbarian? I think it was that first movie. And you
So
just
he
go
was
ahead.
it was actually, yeah, I guess it was Conan the Barbarian when he was going after Conan the Destroyer.
Ah, yes, yes, Conan the Destroyer. But there's this picture, and you're just like, you know, one of the big claims to fame that Arnold Schwarzenegger had was he was one of the first tall bodybuilders. He was like 6'2", I believe it was. So to see Will Chamberlain next to him, you're like, oh, okay. Now I get why he's a great basketball player. You're just like, you got to be kidding. He had the genetic pool. He won the genetic lottery, as they say, for basketball. That's awesome. Was there anybody else that you met that you're excited about?
I mean, I've met so many different ones. I mean, you know, Eric Lindros,
Yeah.
John LeClaire. I, I've become friends with Jason Kelsey,
Wow.
and so like it's like again, it's never fangirl. It's like these guys are just normal human
Yeah.
beings, and it's awesome to be able to get to know them as human beings rather than uh, as a fan. The
Yeah.
hardest part about being the Philly sports guy uh, is it's not, I can't snap my fingers and the face paint disappear. So
Right.
the hardest part about being an athlete and then having to deal with me is that you feel that you have to be on because you see the face paint and you don't know who I am without the face paint. So interestingly enough, I was able to become better friends with Jason when here it was like I was going to his show and doing his late night with they call it late night. And the first time he ever met me without the face paint, I'm like, Jay, it's good to finally see you without the paint on. He's like, oh my God, it's you. Like it, and immediately it changed the way that he looked at me because he realized I am a human being and it's not a matter of just being that guy. It's not all an act. It is that I am a genuine
Yeah.
person and that it's, that's the difference. And until you get to see me without the paint, it makes it difficult to understand that there is a person
Yeah.
underneath all of it.
And I think that that also harkens to your style. You consider yourself friends first. You're not a fangirl, which I love that you said that because I've had people ask me how I get such big names on my podcast, and it's because I meet them in person, but I don't treat them like, oh my God, it's you. One of my guests, he's on a couple of times. He's a professional Major League Baseball player, and the reason we're friends is we got backstage, and he wanted to know how to do jujitsu. So I was playing around with him, moving him around and stuff. But then he went to sign autographs, and I'm just like, whoa, there was this 40-foot long line. I said, is it like this all the time? He goes, oh yeah, it's crazy sometimes. I treated him like he was my older brother, just hey man, and I would tease him and I'd make fun of him a little bit. And to this day, I think those people I have on speed dial simply because I'm not uh, you know, a, a fan person. I consider them a friend first. I would help them with any advice they ever needed, if they ever needed, and I ask them deeper questions because of it, because I don't have that glaze in front of me. Do you find that that's true with you and your relationships with some of these players?
Yes, I like to go beyond the superficial questions. They get those asked all the time.
Yeah,
The most you want them to be able to answer, like when you do get a few moments of time with them, you want them to be able to answer something a little bit more in depth. And then you also like you want it to be memorable. You want it to
yeah,
kind of stand out. Like so it's like where you could go up. One of the things I laugh when every time I see Roger Goodell, who is the
yeah.
commissioner of the NFL, and it's like one time I went up to him and I said, "Hey Roger, I'm going up to take a picture." I'm like, "Hey Roger, I need to borrow the company plane. Is it all right if I take it out for a little bit?" He looked at me and he's like, "What?" I'm like, "The company plane. No, I need to go. I need to go somewhere real quick. I'll be right back with it." And
Yeah,
he laughed because obviously it's like that's not something that he gets asked all the time,
right.
and then of course later on he then wants to do the same thing to me. He goes, hey, do you keep that stuff on your face all the time? And my response is no, it messes up the pillowcases. So it's like
Nice.
it's that type of interaction that remember now I'm remembered. So
Yeah.
every time he sees me, he's like, "What's up? What's up, PSG or Jamie?" And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what makes it. And that, like I says, I care more about how they live their lives when they're not playing sports. Like what are the causes that they are interested in doing? How are their
Yeah.
families and things of that nature? And that's where I feel like that uh, it gets lost a little bit when you're an athlete that you're so used to having to answer all of the common questions and
Yeah.
getting beat up whether you had a good game or a bad game and stuff like that. And and then you just when you get humanized, it's actually a lot more respected by them.
Yeah. I agree on that one. I want to dig into this because a lot of the fans of my show, they're also entrepreneurs. So they're going to be curious about when you started doing social media. What did you see that made the difference for you? Because I've watched your stuff and it's contagious. Let's put it that way. It's contagious. It's fun. Your energy is off the hook. And then you have different styles of paint for each team. So what started to happen? I want to hear what you did and the results of all this.
So the design has evolved over time. I mean, and it
Mhm.
was with through the Eagles that it really started to uh, turn into something that now is what I do all the time.
Right,
The hardest part was obviously I've had the Mohawk now for 12 years. So I've
right.
been wearing the Mohawk now since my 40th birthday. And it was like, okay, so if I want to do this, because I was doing it for the Eagles, but I wasn't doing it for the other teams yet. And I was like, well, I have to have a similar look. Yeah, I think about different things like McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't have the best hamburger or the best Big Mac, but they are consistent all the time. And
Yeah,
that's what you needed to find. I needed to find that consistency. So it was like, okay, the mohawk, the eyes, and the goatee are always going to be the same color. And then this would be the other color, the whatever the jersey is, and I'll just match my jersey. So and that's how that became. It kind of evolved because initially I was doing a lot of Eagles stuff, but I was like, I'm not the Eagles sports guy. I'm the Philly sports guy.
yes.
And and then I started to go to the other events. And you first, it's like first people don't understand. And then comes the haters. And the haters come, and it was very challenging to keep my mouth shut because one of the things that I'm really big on, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later, is I'm very big on bullying and
Yeah.
against bullying, like fans against bullying, fans against violence, and being from Philadelphia, not everybody feels the exact same way here, as Philadelphia has a very strong reputation. That being said, when you're on the internet and you're learning social media, you get the bullies are the are more loyal than your followers.
Right.
The ones that want to troll will sit there and they'll watch your video 7 or 8 times to figure out what to pick on, where the people who love you will just like and move on. And it took a while for me to learn that. And I would
Yeah.
respond to the hates, and when you respond to the hate, you're the one that winds up getting banned. You're the ones
Yeah.
that winds up getting kicked off. And it took probably a year to learn how not to read or not to respond. Because ultimately, like I started to respond even fun, like where I'd call somebody a dummy or a dum dum,
Yeah.
and then that became bullying. I'm like, all right, I get it now. You're just not going to allow me to respond. So you just don't
Right.
respond. And then ultimately, you don't have to respond because then the followers start to actually get your back.
Yeah.
So it's been tough with
Yeah.
social media, but because I have a really good background with patience, and I call it I call it an a-hole tolerance. I have a really strong tolerance for those people because once you know what you're dealing with, then you've already won. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was kind of the biggest deal with that.
The reason I'm laughing is when I first launched this podcast about 5 years ago, um, somebody came in on Facebook and left a review, and they called me a douchebag. Sorry to, to just put it out there. And I responded with, yes, but did you like the show? It's sort of like, because it's like, okay, you hate me. Obviously, it's a personal attack, but I had some great guests on. Come on, let's call it the way it is. So I take my hat off to you because it is so hard to not respond in this day of social media where people have just, yeah, done their thing. I want to ask you this. Was there a moment in the social media journey where you saw the leap take place? Because there is that moment. Like I just had, Dog the Bounty Hunter on the show. It went to 35,000 views, and it takes off. When was that? Do you remember that day?
I do remember the day, but it wasn't a day. It was like a series of events. I was very challenged at one point whether this was going to work or not. This was like I have children and they like sandwiches and I was running out of money. It was becoming very difficult. I wasn't being able to monetize the way I wanted to, and I had to make a decision on whether I was going to continue to do this or not. And I received a message and I have no idea, like I don't even know if I could find the message again. But this person wrote to me and said uh, that he had been a fan of mine, and his father, who was terminal cancer, was given 1 month to live, and he was watching a game, and they showed me on television on that game, and he was like, his father goes, "That guy looks like a fun guy." And because I happened to follow you, I'm like, oh, look at his videos. Here's his videos. And he said, his father was like, okay, he was only given 1 month to live. 1 month goes by, 2 months go by. They're sharing my videos every day. 3 months go by. And ultimately, after the fourth month, he passes away. And he attributed his father staying alive because of watching my videos with him and sharing that time. And he said, you just have no idea what reach you have. And you can't stop doing this. He says, I see the hate. I see how people are talking to you, and you just can't stop because you just don't know how you are affecting other people's lives. And it was such a turning point for me. Very shortly thereafter, I'm at an Eagles game and we're playing against Tampa and Tom Brady and we're getting our butts whipped, and I make a video that's we're down by 17, but I didn't hear no bell. This game ain't over yet. And then the next video you see me making is me walking out of the stadium going, so the season is over. And somebody else took those two videos and mashed them together, and it went mega viral. Like had close to 50 million views in total. People were using the sound bites for something that they were doing, so it was like funny where you would watch girls with my voice, making a video and things of that nature. And that was the first viral video that happened, and it turned the corner. That was the turn of the corner. It was like, okay, I get it now. Now it's not always about how I do things. It's maybe how I got to go about this and how I feel about this. And I always said that the money would come, but it's, sometimes you need it to come faster. Well,
Yeah.
that was the first way it actually started. And, I've had a number of viral videos since then. Most of them have to do with me losing, but it's that, but that was the biggest turning point. Maybe that letter from that guy who
Yeah,
just gave me the pat on the back and said, "Hey, you got to just keep going," was the turning point.
I agree. Keep going, Jamie. Was there a rock in your life behind all this that you could sit down and talk with and go, I don't know if this is working out? And they're like going, Jamie, keep going. You got to keep going, buddy.
No, there wasn't. Interestingly enough, when I first got started, I first got recognized. My mother was in the hospital and she had COPD and emphysema, and she was the one who I did most of my conversing with. And I told her that I was going to start to do this, that this was going to be something that I go about now. And uh, she's like, when you were like 10 years old, you asked me, why don't people get painted up for other sporting events? Why does it only seem to be football? Uh, and I says, really? I asked that question. I says, well, what did you answer? She goes, I don't know. Go outside and play. Which is kind of, and she said it using a couple of expletives that, Italian families know how to
I
use.
know.
Uh,
I know.
so, but it was like she kind of was the one that said, "Hey, listen, if you want to do this, do this."
Yeah.
It's like I had Gary V just happen to be in my ear. It's who I was listening to at the time, saying, "If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life." And I'm sure millions of people have said that, or hundreds of people have said that before. But I was like, I love going to sporting events and I love rooting on my team. How do I make this a business? And it took a lot of work and a lot of time, but now I am in theory, the first ever professional fan.
That's incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to go to his website. What is your website? It's phillysportsguy.net.
ThePhillySportsGuy.net.
ThePhillySportsGuy.net. Go over there. You can hire him for your events. Jamie is, as you can see, really personable, a lot of fun. And today you're going to be doing some charity work. Am I correct on that?
I am. So today is we are doing the state of Delaware, which is where, interestingly enough, the Philly Sports Guy was created, is does a 24-hour telethon that raises money for approximately 20 different groups and charities. So it's a multi-purpose telethon, and I am going to be leading it off for them. So it's like I get the first hour, hour and a half.
That's fantastic, my friend. Excellent. Um, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Pennsylvania. A lot of people know that, but um, Jersey and Delaware and PA are the tri-state area, really, of Philadelphia. Everything is around that, including Maryland, I believe. And so, yeah, it's very easy to be a Phillies fan or a Flyers fan, 76ers, it doesn't matter, because it's all right there for us. I used to love that drive into Philly. It was a 2.5 hours from Lebanon, and then we'd get on the Black Horse Turnpike, I think it was, and then it was crazy. You go from Amish town, where it's real slow in the roads, and then we get into this chaos, this crazy chaos. But thank you so much for being on Awakened Nation, my friend. I love your stories. And it's fantastic. Your energy is contagious. I'm going to show plenty of your clips. I look forward to it. But I'm not letting you go just yet. I always have a lightning round at the end. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
You mentioned Pete Rose at the beginning of this interview, and I feel that he passed away. I also feel that he had gotten some unjust desserts. He was caught gambling on his own games. Do you feel that he should be vindicated on some level? Are his records put back in?
I think they were waiting for him to pass. I feel that first off, a whole different story on how I feel about the Baseball Hall of Fame. I have very strong feelings about that, and I am a big baseball fan. And I feel that the Baseball Hall of Fame is no longer the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of somewhat good. So and because they have done so many injustices Pete Rose, I felt like because of the way that he did things, and he was just not the nicest of people. He could have probably had this overturned much sooner, but because
Yeah,
he wanted to be an ass, well, when you're going to be an ass, you're going to get treated like an ass. And they were waiting for him to die before they put him in. But I think he
yeah,
deserves to be in. He just didn't
yeah.
deserve any of the accolades of that.
He broke a lot of records. For those of you who are listening who don't know who Pete Rose is, just do a quick Google search. Um, that was the era where I believe people played baseball all out. And these guys weren't making $1 million a year. This is way before the big contracts. Maybe they were making 350 grand a year, maybe the era of the Billy Martins who would get drunk during the game and get into fist fights, and Pete Rose diving into first base like Superman. Johnny Bench, this is the era where these baseball players they played hard, man. They played hard. And I do agree, he in the beginning he was kind of a jerk. You could see he would tell people off, but I got a chance to meet him years ago, and when his book came out, one of his books, and I saw a broken man. I saw a humbled man, a broken man, a man who had a lot of regrets in those eyes. And I do agree. Once he passes, they'll probably put him back in. So thank you for your take on that. My second question is, you're kind of an immigrant's kid, am I right? Your dad and your mom and dad are Italian Americans, but they were born here. But does your dad understand what you do?
He does now. My father is still alive. He's 84 years old. He
God
loves
bless.
talking about it. He loves going, to the supermarket and seeing somebody who's got an Eagles and so he enjoys it. He doesn't get to see much of what he does. He never go on social media or anything like that, but he hears about me all the time. It does he get it? I don't know that he gets it, but as long as I'm making money, it's all that matters.
I am always curious because you and I probably have very similar upbringing. My dad being Hungarian, he wasn't telling me how proud he was every single minute, and putting me up on a pedestal. So you're kind of sitting there when you do something like this. I believe they're surprised and proud at the same time. Would you say that's right?
Yes, I feel that although he has no understanding of what it is that I do, the outpouring that he gets and the way people gush over me when he talks to them, I think makes him proud.
Yeah, I can
So,
see that, my friend. I definitely can see that.
so you
And
said you're Hungarian. I don't mean to cut you off. You said, have you ever been to Hungary?
no, we were about to take my dad, and then he got sick and he passed away. We were like this close. But I did get a chance to take him to one of his favorite places he's always wanted to go to, and that is Alaska. And typical of my dad, he bitched the whole time he was there because they do this. Why is this? That's too expensive. Dad, just sit and enjoy yourself for God's sake. I don't think they can enjoy themselves. They always have to be moving and working. But that's a different generation, my friend. Definitely a different generation.
I
Um,
have been to Budapest.
yeah, the
So
food's amazing, isn't it?
oh my lord, it was. Yes, I spent 3 weeks over there. I used to, I guess we'll talk about this maybe a different time. I used to be an arm wrestler,
You're
and I went
kidding.
for the World Championships of Arm Wrestling. I wasn't a participant. I actually sponsored somebody, and they went to the World Championships. So I got to spend 2 weeks in Budapest, and it was absolutely amazing.
I was going to ask you, what is the one thing that we should know about you that we don't know? And here we have here. You sponsor international arm wrestling competitions, big guys. You should now get into that slap competitions now.
I won't. Yeah, somebody else could be getting slapped in the face. That you ain't no chance you're gonna get a slap on you, and somebody's gonna slap me.
I'm going to slap that mohawk off your face. No, you're not. My third and final question I want to ask you is, with everything you've been doing and this extraordinary life, this amazing energy you bring to the table, do you have a favorite memory?
A favorite memory. I guess of doing the Philly Sports Guy.
Anything.
I'd say the most. It probably is the most recent, obviously, being at the Super Bowl and when they won. And there's on my Facebook that somebody got a picture. It was one of the newspapers took a picture of my face where you can kind of see a tear starting to form because we just won the Super Bowl, and it was this smile as I'm looking up at the clock and knowing that we're going to win here. And that's an amazing memory to have. Uh, Going and really the best memories I have are the way that the people react to me and the kids react to me. That's really what makes this as rewarding as it is. It's not about me, and it's not about what I do. It's about how everybody else feels when they see me, and that's not something that many people get the opportunity to experience. There's so much negativity and you know hate in the world, and the fact that children and then their parents get all very excited when they see me, and they see me on television and they're like, oh, I know that guy. And I don't get to ever see that moment, but they share that moment with me when they see me. And that's what really, those are the memories. I don't ever remember the faces, and I tell people all the time, I says it's usually the interactions are 30 seconds that I won't remember that they don't forget. And
Yeah.
it's those types of memories that keep me going and keep this still being a thing.
God bless. God bless you, Jamie. Thank you so much for being on Awakened Nation, my friend.
I appreciate you for having me. Thank you.
You bet, buddy. Hey, everybody, reach out. Jamie Pagliei is the Philly Sports Guy. Go to thephillysportsguy.net. He's got all kinds of stuff up there, including his image with the Mohawk and the Eagles paint on. It's really great. Yeah, thank you, my friend. Thank you for being on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody, don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to have another extraordinary guest here on Awakened Nation. Until then, bye-bye for now. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share this episode out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success is because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.